Welcome, everyone, to the fourth episode of the Owl Tales podcast here at good old Rockcastle County High School in Mount Vernon, Kentucky. Coming to you live on a Friday afternoon, the most exciting part of the week. I'm looking at Mr. Lewis Mink.
Hey.
And we got on the phone with us Daniel Bussell up in Lexington, Kentucky.
That's where I am.
And that's where I was last night. I was up there. Daniel and I actually did a plant science workshop for the Agricultural Education Society students at the University of Kentucky, our old alma mater. We got to go up there and present about a couple of different plant science topics alongside Tony Myers, who's the queen. We call her the queen. Because she works at the Kentucky Castle. She's my former co-worker and Daniel's current kind of co-worker, even though they work at different locations. But that was I had a lot of fun doing that, Daniel. I was really, honest to goodness, I was just really excited to go do it, to get to go back to campus and be a part of UK and get to kind of see the new upcoming ag teachers.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Taught them lots of good stuff about horticulture.
We did. We taught them a lot of good stuff about horticulture, which kind of is going to be a little bit what we're going to be talking about today since we did that last night. So we're obviously real excited to be here today. And we first of all, I think we want to kind of go back and look at some of the stuff that we talked about last week when we did our favorite and least favorite fictional teachers. We had a couple of people that left us comments about some that we forgot or didn't talk about. So Mr. James Bonta, legendary ag teacher from Greene County High School, and one of our best, honestly, would you all say one of our best supporters on this podcast over the years? Probably top five supporter of the podcast, I feel like. He said Yoda was one of the best teachers. What do you think about that, Lewis? Have you ever watched Star Wars?
I watched 5 minutes of it and I couldn't stand it, so I turned it off.
Was it the part that had Yoda though, or was it a different
I've
part?
Seen who Yoda is. He's that little trash can guy.
Yeah, that's Oscar the Grouch.
Oh,
so you're thinking about.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
Yeah, close. You were close. They're green. They're both green. So that's you were right on the right track.
Oh, okay. Well, now the trash can thing I'm thinking of is silver and blue.
What?
Yeah, it's on the Star Wars. It's silver and blue. It goes around going, meat, 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 meat.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm speechless right now.
Oh, it's R2K2. B2.
Oh, R2D2.
Yeah, that guy.
I thought you were talking about Roadrunner on the Looney Tunes there for a second.
He goes around going, me.
It does. It does do that.
R2K2.
Yeah, that guy too. That's the advanced version.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is the advanced version. That's very good, Lewis. Good job. So, yeah, Yoda's a good answer. He talked in circles a lot and, tried to be as confusing as possible. His pedagogy probably needs a little bit of work, but he's not the worst teacher of all time, I don't think.
That might be what I'm teaching. Talking circles a lot. Most of the students are probably lost.
Yeah. Yep. Mine stay lost, but that's a whole different story. I don't feel like it's all my fault. And then Bennett Colliff. Are you aware of Bennett Colliff, Lewis?
Yes.
Yes. He is one of Lewis's lovely students. And he said that the worst was Miss Flamille from the Animaniacs. Now, I feel like this young man is too young to know about the Animaniacs because that was kind of in our time.
Yep.
And it's been so long ago now. It's been so long since I've seen the Animaniacs. I don't remember.
I remember her. She was pretty bad. So
I remember the teacher on Tiny Toons.
I don't remember her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember Animaniacs. I remember there was this one episode of Tiny Toons, and I always think about it when when we're talking about teaching and stuff, because there was a possum on there, and they went on this big summer vacation thing, and it lasted several episodes on Tiny Toons. And at the end of it, the possum goes back to school with all of the Tiny Toons characters, and he goes, "I'm gonna get me a edumacation."
Sounds like
And
me.
I use that phrase a lot. I'm gonna get me an edumacation. So that was way off topic. And then Mr. Bennett Colliff also said that the best was the Nutty Professor. Did you guys ever watch that?
I had.
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one.
There's an older one too, though, ain't there?
Yeah.
Older Nutty Professor.
It's in the 70s.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty good answer, I feel like.
So isn't there like a Nutty Professor 1 and 2 or something?
I
Yeah,
think so.
There is.
I think that was from a time though when, everybody thought that college professors were real nerdy and all sciencey, and I feel like that's changed a little bit since back in that time.
Maybe.
I think we
Depends on what sector you're in, I guess.
yeah. I think we all still agree the worst is Mr. Holland. So as long as we're on the same page on that, I'm fine with whatever. So all right, and then let's see here. We're recording this on this is Friday, February 9th, and so coming up next week here in Kentucky is a huge event known as the National Farm Machinery Show. It takes place every year in good old Louisville, Kentucky. And we wanted to kind of just mention that because, obviously a lot of ag teachers in Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana are all getting ready to head that way for a day of taking their students to the Farm Machinery Show and or the tractor pulls that go till like 2 o'clock in the morning. So we're thinking of all you all. Me and Mr. Mink are heading up on Friday. Lewis, what is your favorite part of the National Farm Machinery Show?
Pork sandwich.
From the pork producers?
Yeah, I go to the pork producers and get a pork tenderloin sandwich, and I always look forward to that. I love the Farm Machinery Show, but I've been to it basically since 2005 every year, and it's great and it's fun, but I feel like I've seen everything a dozen times, the same stuff a dozen times, but I always look forward to it, seeing everything and climbing on the combines and stuff like that. I do enjoy that part. So.
Yeah. Get to pretend that you're a big grain farmer for the day.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I always feel like students always come back with the craziest stuff from the Farm Machinery Show. I mean, like,
oh, yeah. 100%.
they come back with pocket knives and,
Yep.
all these kind of gadgets and things that they're probably not even allowed back in the building with. And, back in the day, I always felt like everybody was trying to go over and get free dip and chew and stuff.
Oh,
They had
yeah.
I always come back with cattle prods. I always enjoyed that part.
You threatened students with them? Or was this before? This was
when I was in school.
When you were in school.
I would buy a cattle prod about every year. Dad still got them lined up next to our cattle pen there at the house. So,
and did you ever see those?
He never had to use one on me. I think one time he wanted to when I let a calf out when I shouldn't. But
what did Mr. Reynolds say when you tried to get back on the bus with the cattle prod? He'd just say, "Now, Lewis, just put that under the seat."
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he said. Just put it under the seat. And I kind of act like I did, and I think I probably sat and poked Dustin Johnson, one of my friends. I probably kept poking him with it or something on the way home. So,
yeah, with it on or off?
Oh no, not the electric ones. It was just the other ones.
You're talking about like just a cattle stick?
Yeah, cattle
See,
stick.
I thought you were talking about a cattle prod.
Oh no, I can't afford one of them. So if I had one of them, and man, that would be really cool to sit there and poke somebody with.
I was picturing you getting back on the bus with the big old electric cattle prod.
No, I did look at them one year, and they were like, "This is 2007." There was like $300 or $400, and I didn't have that much money, so I had to
I guess
buy
with them
food.
now they'd be like what, $900, I guess. Then
Yeah,
Probably. Yeah.
every bit of it.
Yeah. So,
and that's why your ribeye sandwich at the beef producers booth now will cost $25 if you're going to get that in a fried
that's right.
drink.
That's right.
Yep.
Be prepared for high price food.
But I just make a meal off the old Erler's ice cream.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. If people that aren't from Kentucky and don't or haven't been to Louisville very often, well, probably a lot of if you were around when National Convention was in Louisville, probably a lot of ag teachers have tried Erler's ice cream, even if you're not from Kentucky, because they have it. It's really there's a couple of locations in Louisville that sell it, but the main thing is they just have it at the Fair and Expo Center there. That's the probably every time except once. That's the only place I've ever had it, and it's the best ice cream. I really feel like, honest to goodness, I feel like that is the best ice cream that you can get in this state. 100%.
Now you upset all the graders and
yeah.
And
I'm still going to stick with it though. I love graders. I love all the places, but that is, I don't know. I mean, I really think that's the best.
I love their strawberry, and they got a pecan at certain places. It's really good.
Yeah. The butter pecan.
Yeah.
And their Oreo
Yeah.
cookies and cream. I guess it's not really called Oreo, but
maybe we can petition them to do a Erler's dough whip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be,
great.
oh gosh, that would be awesome. Right in the middle of February. That's right when you need some pineapple in your life. Speaking of February, the other day that's coming up next week is probably every teacher's least favorite day of the year. Especially administrators, it's their least favorite day of the year. Has got to be Valentine's Day. Now, Daniel, you all probably, being at more of a technical center, you all probably don't feel this as much, but you've experienced it, I'm sure, being at a normal high school setting.
Yeah, they got to where you just bring them all. When I was in Owen County, we got to where we just say, okay, we're going to put all these arrangements in the cafeteria, and just everybody come down and look and see if you can find your name, just in case you might have got one. There's so many of them, you're like, how do you even do this? You call them down individually, one by one.
They do them. When I was at Boyle County and here, they kind of do it in groups. They would just call, 20 of them at a time, just call off the names. And you can tell some kids are like, they're waiting for it. They're waiting for their name. They know it's coming. And sometimes they don't get called, and they kind of get that look in their eye like, oh, boy. They're sitting there.
Divorce time, baby.
Divorce time.
Or they break up right before Valentine's Day, just there has to be no exchange of a gift, and then they get back together the next week.
That's called good economics.
Maybe I need to do that with my wife.
That's good economics. Well, with my wife, I don't know. Valentine's Day has never been a real big thing for us. I don't know how you are with your wives, but I mean, we of course celebrate it. I don't know if Hillary and I have ever actually went out to eat on Valentine's Day. We always go, either the weekend before or after, so that we don't have to deal with the crowd.
Yeah, it's miserable.
It is. It's awful. And so we just, I don't know, so the actual day of Valentine's Day has never been a real big thing for us, I guess, because we always celebrate it, but it's not necessarily like that day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but I guarantee you, if you go out to eat this weekend or the weekend after Valentine's Day, they're still going to be busy.
Yeah, they are.
And people are, even if so then you got the crowd that's not celebrating Valentine's Day, and then you got the crowd that's also celebrating Valentine's Day, just doing it on the weekend. So it's going to be a mess for 2 to 3 weeks.
100%. Lewis, I know you do something special for Stephanie on Valentine's Day.
Oh, I guarantee it.
I get her chocolate-covered strawberries every year.
From Old Kentucky Chocolate?
No. Our FCS teacher, Miss Campbell, she She usually does a fundraiser where she'll make some.
Yeah.
She's been doing that the last.
And they're
few
delicious.
years. They are. And
they're really good.
I actually bought 2 dozen this year. I bought a dozen for her, and then I'm gonna keep a dozen for
And
me.
a dozen for who?
It's Valentine's Day for Lewis.
Yep. So.
Well, you have to love yourself before you can love others. That's what I've always
Ooh,
heard.
that took a really bad turn.
Yeah, let's move on. That's enough. That's enough romantic talk, I feel like. Oh, I do. Well, I'm going to tell this quick story because this is funny. I had 2 of my students that are, they're in a relationship, and they were in the hall, the ag hall. This was yesterday, and they were standing down at the end of the hall, just, kind of just doing what boys and girls do in the hallway, between classes. They're standing there talking and holding hands and, oh, love you and all this stuff. And they were standing by the door that goes into, what do you call that room, Lewis? I don't even know what you call it. It's the boiler room.
It's a boiler room, maintenance room, whatever you want to call it.
It looks like it goes into a little closet, but then it goes into a huge room where all of the air equipment is, right?
Yep.
So they were standing in front of that door, and they were like all hugged up, and they were following the rules, but they were, walking the borderline of the rules for PDA. And the principal and the assistant principal walked out of that closet room. They opened the door, and they were standing right there. And those kids got this look on their face like, oh my God. They were just like right on top of them when they opened the door. It was so funny. It was the best thing that's happened this week, I feel like. So
I bet they probably thought playing like.
Yeah, they were out to get them. They ambushed them.
Watching on camera.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. All right, so today's topic, we've already talked for almost 20 minutes, and we haven't even gotten to our topic yet, so I can tell how this is going to go today. So we're going to talk a little bit about greenhouses, because it's almost greenhouse season. Me and Daniel were talking about greenhouses with our wonderful future teachers at UK last night, and it just seems like a good time to talk about greenhouses. I'm always down to talk about it because I love it. So, and Daniel and I both teach horticulture and have greenhouses at our school, and Lewis is a former horticulture teacher. I don't think it's his favorite subject.
Don't call me a former horticulture teacher. I just was happy that I had a job.
He's it's not his favorite topic. I can tell by looking at the expression on his face, but he enjoys it secretly, I feel like. So anyway, Daniel, you're kind of the expert on greenhouses, more so than me, admittedly. What is your, let's say, top 3 tips? Let's do top 3 tips on operating a greenhouse.
I think the number one thing is don't over water.
Amen.
Yes.
My gosh, I hear people talking about how they send their kids out to water every day, and I'm like, how? Every single day you water the entire greenhouse? Because I might go 3 days and not even put any water on stuff during certain parts of the season.
Yep.
And you overwater that stuff, it's bad news. It's going to grow too fast. It's going to get fungus. It's going to rot. It never turns out great.
Yeah.
So I only water when I need to water. And so I think that's important to teach the kids just about how to water. That's the process. Like, don't water it if it doesn't need it.
Yeah. Especially where we live in Kentucky, it's so rainy and cloudy during this time of the year for the most part. When you're first starting to put out plants and transplant and stuff, it's going to be, they just don't get much sun that first little bit, and the soil just doesn't dry up very quickly.
Yeah, you overwater a petunia hanging basket, you just soon throw it.
Yeah.
Just
I think
just
Lewis.
like if it's like 55 pounds, just go ahead and take it off the line and put it in the dumpster. It might look good right then, but 2 weeks, it and dump.
Yeah.
I may or may not know a guy that done that one time.
Yeah.
Surely
did
not,
you kill,
Lewis.
kill a bunch of petunias by overwatering them, Lewis?
They got a blight, or whatever, fungus or whatever.
Yeah. A water blight.
Yeah, they did not grow. I thought I didn't know. I thought, well, I probably need to water them today, and I'd water them, and then I'd keep watering them, and I kept watering them, and they never grew the first year. And I always wondered, why in the world are these things not growing? And then I think I talked to you and kind of realized what I was doing wrong. So, but I thought it was water every day, and they'll grow big and strong, but I was wrong.
I told them the other night or last night when I was talking to the ag education group, you can kill 100 hanging baskets and nobody cares. But if one dog dies in the lab or one calf gets sick and dies, everybody is all up in arms about it. So
yeah,
it's okay to kill a few hanging baskets. And the good news is, at the end of the day, you still get a paycheck at the end of the month.
That's right.
And nobody's going to lose any sleep over it except for probably you, because you feel like you've done something terrible.
Yeah. Experience is the best teacher on that stuff, I feel like. It just, you're going to mess stuff up. Everybody is, no matter how good you are. We're all starting at zero. Not very many people grow up working in a greenhouse. So, and that's true for ag teachers too. So unless you grew up doing it, you're not going to know very much when you start. Because how would you know?
Yeah, the bad thing is though, at the college level, there's not really a class about it. Like, I took 6 plant science classes or something.
Yeah.
4, I don't know how many. None of them were like greenhouse management.
Right.
It was all like theory and all that kind of stuff, but like nothing about like placing an order or any of that kind of stuff.
Well, they probably have that for people who major in horticulture.
Yeah, probably. Maybe that's been elective for the ag teacher then.
Yeah.
Maybe they've changed that since then.
Hopefully. What about, you got a second tip? What's your second tip?
Tip number 2. Don't plant the stuff too early.
Amen.
Yeah. This is like a church experience for Lewis.
Yes.
People get this urge, we've just gone through a pretty warm spell. Like, people will call the farm at home and say, are y'all's tomato plants ready?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's February. What's wrong with you people? We've not even started tomato seed. We've not even
But Daniel, it's 60 degrees outside and sunny.
Yeah, great. But, you can turn this stuff over really quick. But if you're planting stuff, like the only baskets I've planted right to this date, I planted a few Wandering Jew baskets, and that's just because I had some cuttings sitting there. And I was like, well, we could go ahead and put those in. But, if you're planting petunias and all that stuff right now, it's just too early. And the longer you have to keep that stuff, the worse it gets. The more bugs you get on it, the more watering problems you get, the more fungus that hangs around and thrips and everything else.
Now, we should say, too, this is for Kentucky. If you're in Florida, this may be a little different. It may be time to start doing stuff now.
Or if you're in Switzerland.
If you're in Michigan, you probably are still waiting for quite a while after we get done. So it's a little different everywhere you go, I guess. So
yeah, it's all relative to your location.
Your climate.
Your climate. Your what's the word? Your daylight, your growing degree days. That's it.
Oh, getting real fancy.
Yeah. Growing degree days. I'm only vaguely aware of what that means, but it sounded good. Maybe somebody can explain that to us.
Thermal units.
It's what?
It's like an accumulation of like thermal units or temperatures. It takes, like and it varies per plant. So every plant has like a temperature.
Yeah.
That it needs to actually put growth and fruit.
Amen.
I feel like this is getting a little too educational. Let's move.
Wait, this is getting too serious.
Yeah, we're getting a little too textbooky here. Third tip. What's your third tip, Daniel?
Third tip is experiment with different things in the greenhouse and just like, blow stuff up, like you do in a shop or something.
Yeah.
Like if you have to throw a basket or two away, who cares? So like show the kids something different, something new. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Put some growth regulators on those baskets. See how it works.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Amen.
Experiment. Lewis is just doing a one-word podcast over there.
He's in there like that.
Today's binomial nomenclature is amen.
Well, I say that in Latin.
Yeah. Is that Latin? It may be Latin.
Haku.
What?
I think it's Japanese.
Oh, okay.
I think just for a bonus tip too, Daniel, I'll let you kind of take the lead on this, but I really like last night when we were talking to the students at UK, you also said something important about pricing things in your greenhouse. And I have always, basically, when I started, I just did whatever Daniel told me to do. And so I have found this advice to be very good advice. So
yeah, don't undersell your stuff. I mean,
yeah,
there's some teachers that probably going to listen to this podcast and they're going to be like, man, he's talking about me.
Yeah.
Like, you're selling your tomato plants.
He's calling me out.
I am calling you out. If you're selling your tomato plants for 25 cents, stop. You can't buy a tomato plant at Lowe's for anything under like $5.
Right.
So,
amen.
Just set the price up there where they need to be and pretend like you have labor in them. Like I know we don't pay the labor, but teach the kids that, because that's not realistic. And you can make more money for your program if you just price the stuff up. And you have a captive audience. Like the people are going to be like, "Oh, I want to come spend my money with you because my kid goes here to this school."
Right. And even if you don't sell as many, you'll still make more money.
That's right.
Because your profit margin. There's another term.
Yeah, that's right.
Profit margin. I do know what that one means.
This is like our most serious one we've done.
And when it comes to money, I'm your guy. I got that part of it. So, yeah, I like that. And then also, second bonus piece of advice that's kind of related is one thing that Daniel and other teachers really stressed to me when I was first starting out doing greenhouses: be okay with throwing things away at the end of the season.
Amen.
Do not give stuff away at the end or deeply discount it, because people will just wait you out and wait until the end to come by when they would have come and by beforehand if you didn't discount it.
That's right. Yeah. I had, when I was teaching at Owen County, my first year, I had somebody come in on the opening day. I was so mad when they did this. They came in and they were like, well, what I want to know is when you're going to put this stuff up for sale, like on sale. I said, well, it's for sale right now.
Yeah.
Like, well, but when are you going to just basically give it away? Like, when are you going to take it half off? I said, like, I got really mad about that because we had just opened it up. And I was like, never. And I even looked at him and I said, I will spray this with Roundup and throw it over the hillside before I did stuff. And they were like, are you serious? You would do that? I said, yes, I am serious. I would do that because this is a school program and we're here trying to help the children.
And you're trying to get something free out of it.
Yeah. And they just kind of looked at me like, this guy's crazy. And I probably looked kind of half crazy. I probably had that like crazy eye.
Yeah.
we'd done all that work, and it's like, yeah, you want me to give it away? No.
Yeah.
I did do that.
Thanks.
I did round up some plants.
I have too.
Yep. Now there are a couple of exceptions, just a couple of exceptions.
That's right.
Number one, I try to give Lewis his stuff at a deep discount, but he ends up paying me more than what he's supposed to pay me, and I don't really understand why. But it's because he's got
children.
It's got a huge heart. That's what it is. But so I try to get Lewis to take stuff because he's my co-teacher. And then my voice cracked. That was kind of embarrassing. Okay, and then some people at school will take them some stuff, or if people come in at the very end and buy in bulk. If they'll buy, if I've got 3 trays of tomatoes and it's the last day and they buy all of it, then I might give them a little bit of a discount, instead of just.
Yeah, but it's not advertised. It's not an advertised discount.
Well, I guess I just did.
Well,
but, I said it on a national podcast.
Yeah.
But, yes, I don't say, all right, everything's 25% off now. So,
because here's what happens with that. I made that mistake one time, not really the discounts, but when I was at Perry County, my first year there was a gentleman that worked with the school system that come in the first year, and he bought some stuff, and at the end of the season, he wanted to buy some more stuff. He said, will you give me a little bit of a discount? I said, well, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of discount. The next year, he didn't come at the beginning. He come towards the end, and he bought a bunch of stuff. But he said, "Will you give me a little bit of a discount?" And I said, "Well, you didn't buy nothing at the beginning." He said, "These are my tomatoes were getting real tall and real stringy." He said, "Well, these ain't really that good." I said, "Well, I'll give you the discount this time." The next year, when I got finished, I took Roundup and I round up everything in the greenhouse. I didn't care what it was. I mean, I sprayed it to it, and then I put another dose on it.
Just to be sure.
I made sure it was dead. And 2 days later, I was out at the greenhouse, and he said, "What happened to your plants?" I said, "I put Roundup on them." He said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Because people kept coming in here trying to get stuff for free or not have to pay much." He said, "Well, I would have bought some of that stuff." I said, "Yeah, you wanted a discount every time, or you wanted it for free." He said, "Well, you're just going to get rid of it anyways." I said, "Well, I can just kill it too." And he got mad and wouldn't talk to me anymore, but that's okay too. So
that was really what you were going for in the first place.
Basically it was for him, the reason I was doing it. So
yeah, people try to take advantage of you on that stuff. It seems like with shop and greenhouse, both, there's always somebody looking to benefit from, from it, because it's, they want to, in the shop, they want to give you a project. Your kids need a project, and what they're really asking is, will you give me this for free?
Yep.
And in the greenhouse, you're just going to throw that away anyway. Just sell it to me.
Give it to me for free.
Yep. And so I say toss it. That's what I say.
Make sure you round up before you toss it, because they'll go dumpster diving. I know people that do that.
Yeah. Last year I didn't spray it with Roundup, but I told people that I did when we threw it away.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem donating some down to the nursing home or
that's great. Yeah.
The land comes with, I even had some students where I gave a couple of my students some plants because they told me they were going to go landscape this area for this elderly neighborhood entrance, and some of their raised bed gardens that they do in the elderly home down here. So I've done some of that, but I mean you can only do so much of that. There's only so many of those areas that you can do, and you can't do all of them. If I did all of them in Lexington, I'd be broke.
Yeah. Now we could, because we only have one, so it'd work out for us all right.
But then again, it's only going to take so many plants,
Right. All right, I've got one good greenhouse story that I want to kind of throw out there before we move on. And this is my favorite greenhouse story and probably always will be. When I was student teaching at Boyle County, they had just opened up a brand new greenhouse. It's still there today. And everybody was so excited about this new greenhouse. They were building it a lot of the time I was student teaching. And then, about middle of April or something, it got done and they had the grand opening. And Miss Myers was there at the time. She was filling it with plants, in the middle of April and stuff. She had grown a bunch of stuff and germinated in the classroom and all this stuff. And they had this big grand opening event. The superintendent came and the newspaper in Danville came. And, there was all these people there. And there were kids carrying stuff all over the place. And it was a big event. And one of the janitors that worked there at Boyle County, who has since passed away, R.I.P. to Rick Richardson.
R.I.P.
He's a pretty awesome dude.
Rest in peace.
He was there the whole time I was there, and I thought the world of him. But he was a little different. He always wore like the big long, the things like the football players wear on the sidelines. It's not real. Jackets. It's like a big cape.
Yeah.
He wore a cape every day in the winter when it was cold, and he would have on like shorts underneath it. And he had on his big cape, and he had the big glasses and stuff. But he was awesome. But so he comes in right when all this stuff's going on the first day that this greenhouse is operational, and he comes in carrying some tomato plants. And he goes up to Miss Myers. He says, "Miss Myers, do you care if I put a few of my tomato plants in here?" And she said, "No, that's okay, Rick. That's fine." And so he brings in a couple of tomato plants and sets them in the greenhouse. And he is fiddling around with them a little bit. And he pulls out this plastic bag out of his cape, like a Ziploc bag. And he looks at me and Mr. Wade, who was my supervising teacher, and Miss Myers. We were all standing there. And he looks at us and he pulls this bag out and he goes, "Now," he goes, "I always put a little bit of my own hair on these tomatoes." And I looked, and his hair, right in the front, his hair was like gapped right here. Like he had just cut off his bangs right here. And it had a big gap right there. And he took his hair out of the bag and sprinkled it on his tomatoes. And I was just standing there with my mouth open like, and they were, Miss Myers and Mr. Wade were dying laughing. And that was kind of like my introduction to this guy who I worked with there at Boyle County for so many years. But I just couldn't believe that he put his own hair on his tomatoes. And to this day, every time we start doing tomatoes in the greenhouse, that's the story I think about. And I tell students that story all the time. It's, I just put his own hair on the tomatoes. Do you think there's any horticultural scientific evidence, Daniel, on putting hair on the tomatoes?
I'd say it's probably some wives' tale.
But does that make it valid, though?
Maybe. I mean, here,
some wives' tales are pretty accurate.
Agri-Science Fair project.
Oh, that's right. We need to do an Agri-Science Fair project on that.
You can go around and clip different kids' hair and put in different tomato,
different
you need
red hair, brown hair. Yeah, I'm liking this. Wavy hair, straight hair. I like it. Oh, I really like it. That's good. So, you guys got any other good greenhouse stories?
No.
Before we wrap it up.
I don't like greenhouse.
He doesn't like greenhouse.
He doesn't like it. You think the greenhouse doesn't like you too, Lewis?
It don't. I always got nervous and worried.
Yeah.
I'd wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning worried about it.
Stressing, sweating.
I almost drove up here one time at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's why I'm glad you teach it and I don't anymore.
I love it. I'm so glad I get to teach it now. It's my favorite thing. All right, so let's go into binomial nomenclature here with Lewis. First of all, while we've got your undivided attention, I'd like to remind everybody that we want to hear from you about this episode. If you've got good greenhouse tips, if you've got a good greenhouse story, if you have any thoughts about anything we said today, about the tips and things that we shared, please contact us on our social media, on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We haven't made a TikTok in a while, Lewis. We need to do that again. We get back on the TikTok and get to work.
Yep.
You can also email us at altospodcast@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from everybody. And go check out our Patreon. It's Alto's Podcast on Patreon, and check out what we got going on there. We got a couple videos that not everybody in the public gets to see, so get on there and check that out. All right, today's binomial nomenclature with Lewis. Now, we were having this discussion about how to pronounce the actual, common name of this. It's a tree, and I call it, and I'm sure I'm wrong because Lewis knows more about forestry than I do, but I call it chinkapin oak. But how do you say it, Lewis?
My dad always called it shinky pin.
Shinky pin.
And I'm pretty sure it's what you said, chinkapin. Is that how you say it?
Well, that's how it's spelled.
But
that doesn't mean that it's right.
I don't know.
I say it.
Dad always hollered it was a shinky pin.
Why did he holler? Why didn't he just say it normally?
He'd be going down through there. He said, "There's a shinky pin in White Oak right there, shinky pin." So I just always said it that way, is the way he said it. So
I do like them. They're really pretty trees.
Well, I like them because they bring pretty good money.
They bring pretty good money, and they're nice trees.
So.
All right, so give us the binomial nomenclature for shinky pin. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. I'm switching. Shinky pin oak.
Shinky pin oak. Corcus. Muhlenbergii. Corcus Muhlenbergii. That's the shinky pin oak for everybody.
Is that a county? Like Muhlenberg County?
Yeah, like Muhlenberg County, Kentucky.
Yeah, that's what it was named after. That's what
Muhlenberg was. Shout out Muhlenberg County, Kentucky. Let's go.
That's what.
Home of the shinky pin oak.
Yeah,
shinky
that's
pin.
Right. That's Muhlenberg County was named after the shinky pin oak. So
nice.
Fun fact.
Fun fact. Well, now we know. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate you guys making it all the way to the end of this podcast. Can't wait to hear from you all on social media, and we will see you next time.
Shinky pin.
Shinky pin. Let's go.
Amen.